Hi there, welcome back to All of the Street Fighters, where we're looking at almost all of the Street Fighters. This is our third video. We've previously looked at Fighting Street, or Street Fighter 1, on the PC Engine. We've looked at Street Fighter 2, the World Warrior, the arcade version. And this time, we're looking at our second Street Fighter 2 game, Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition. This is also the arcade version. This released 9 months after Street Fighter 2, the World Warrior. It's an update to the game, but it's quite a significant update, so it's worth our time to look at. The big difference in this is the addition of 4 new characters, the 4 bosses from Street Fighter 2. That's Balrog, Vega, Sagat, and M. Bison. It's a huge change. This brought the character roster up to 12. These guys are all constants in the Street Fighter games going forward. You'll I won't say always, but you'll often see M. Bison, you'll often see Vega, you'll see Balrog, you'll see Sagat. It's a huge change. So although I wanted to play through the Street Fighter games all as Ryu so we could see how he changes in each version, I actually realised that it would be useful to play some of the new characters in this. So I'll be playing through all 4 of the new boss characters, starting with Sagat. So what else is new in Champion Edition? It's got new artwork, so you'll see some of the character portraits are different. There's mirror matches this time, so a character can fight themselves, so you can have Ryu versus Ryu, Ken versus Ken, etc. It's got various balance changes and bug corrections, but I'm never going to notice those, I don't think. So after the World Warrior released, Capcom just started absolutely chucking out Street Fighter 2 games. As I said, this came out 9 months, just 9 months after the World Warrior released. And then just after this, they released Street Fighter 2 Turbo, which is one of the hugely popular entries, mainly because of the Super Nintendo version. I'm probably not going to look at that next, because it's so similar to Champion Edition. It basically sped the game up, it included some more balance changes, but Champion Edition is the first sequel to Street Fighter 2. So it's the second Street Fighter 2 game, and I figured that was probably significant enough without having to look at Turbo as well. So Champion Edition released on the Mega Drive, or the Genesis, as Special Champion Edition, and that included all the changes from Turbo as well. So you can see these naming conventions get a little bit complicated, but to break it down, it goes Street Fighter 2 World Warrior, then Champion Edition came out, that's this game, then Turbo came out, and then Special Champion Edition released on the Genesis and the Mega Drive, which is this, plus the changes from Turbo. So although Champion Edition is just an upgrade from World Warrior, it did amazingly well. It was a massive game. It's one of the top 10 biggest grossing arcade games of all time. Its arcade earnings are estimated to exceed $2.3 billion in gross revenue. So one of my favourite ports of Champion Edition is the Master System version, which released only in Brazil, published by Tectoy, as so many of these Brazilian ports are. The Master System was massive in Brazil for years and years, up until maybe it's still massive, but yeah, huge. You get all these weird ports of games for later consoles that release on the Master System just in Brazil. So there's this really crap version of Street Fighter 2 released on the Master System. I'm going to look at that one day, because you've got to see it. It's ridiculous. So it's based on Champion Edition, but it's only got 8 characters, weirdly. Dalsim, E. Honda, Zangief and Vega aren't in this version. I don't know why they've chosen those ones, but it includes the other characters. The character portraits in the player select screen are actually based on Super Street Fighter 2, so it's a bit of a confusing release, but that released in 1997, so it did come out 5 years after Champion Edition launched, so they obviously used some things from later games, and yeah, very weird. So although they've added in these 4 new characters, the 4 boss characters, to me, I don't know whether this is true, but they feel a little incomplete, and they actually, in later entries, went on to add quite a lot to the boss characters. For example, Sagat doesn't have a jumping punch, he only has a jump kick. Some of their animation frames feel a little bit primitive compared to some of the other 8 characters. It kind of feels like they've just taken the 4 bosses and not hacked in, but they've just added player control to them without making them full characters to sit alongside the others, if that makes sense. So in the next entries, they definitely updated the 4 bosses, probably more than they did the other 8 characters, which I think is quite interesting. So that's Street Fighter 2 Champion Edition. I mean, it's an upgrade from the World Warrior, but it's quite a large upgrade. I think this is one that's probably more remembered than the World Warrior, actually, just because the home console ports of it on the Mega Drive, Genesis, and Turbo on the Super Nintendo, which I kind of put in the same box as Champion Edition, even though they are separate entries. Most people remember Street Fighter as having Vega, Balrog, Sagat, and M. Bison in them. I think that's most people's memory of Street Fighter 2. I think the home console versions are very good. I think if you can pick up the Mega Drive version, or if you can pick up Turbo on the Super Nintendo, they're just brilliant games. They're a great upgrade from the first one. I think we're going to look at probably one more Street Fighter 2 game in our next episode. I think we'll look at Super Street Fighter 2 The New Challengers, because that adds another 4 characters in again, and that's another quite big jump. There's a lot of graphical changes. It's quite a leap. So I think we're going to look at that one next time. I hope you can make it. I hope these are interesting. I think the Street Fighter franchise is fascinating. How many games they released and how they changed them and balanced them, and all the different console ports. So I hope you find it interesting too. If you do, consider giving the video a like, because it helps a lot with people finding my videos. Consider subscribing to the channel so these pop up in your news feeds in the future. But if you don't want to, don't bother. I hope you enjoyed it anyway. Thanks for joining me, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.